Hi guys, I just wanted to give you a quick example of how to use the constructor. Now we do a lot of command line based applications, so I thought I show you another IDE, especially for those of you that are interested in gaming and application development, which is really not part of computer science, but I know some people like to develop applications in a GUI environment. Okay, so I like to use BlueJ. So BlueJ is an IDE from Kent University that is um, a really good learning environment. Now, Kent University also creates this Greenfoot. So in Greenfoot, we can create a new project, right? It's also, Greenfoot is also free, so you can just download it. It supports all operating systems, so you can use it in different operating systems. Let's say, let's just create a new Java scenario. Okay, so when it comes to scenarios, Stride is for even easier, maybe pre-K or elementary school level. But you want to make sure that you create a Java scenario. We want to practice Java. So even though application development is not part of computer science, in this case, we're just practicing what we learned in chapter 3, which is creating objects. All right. So when it comes to gaming, in games, you have a world and you have actors. So the simplest explanation of games, you have either a background or you have actors acting on that background. So these boxes represent the classes. So in order to create a new class, so we just create a new subclass, and I can call it, let's say, B. And what does a B look like? So I can just associate a picture with that, okay? And also we can set an image for the background, and maybe I want to set something light, okay? So now we have two classes, okay? Let's just focus on the B. So if I double click on the B, you can see that, so here's our import statement, right? It uses the wildcard, which I really don't like for you guys while you're learning to use a wildcard. But what it's going to do is going to import all these classes, the world, the actor, the Greenfoot image, Greenfoot, the mouse info, and all these other classes. So all the Greenfoot package, so that's the package, and inside that package, all the classes are imported, okay? So you guys can see that there is one docstring for the class, and there is a docstring for each one of the methods. So now think about the act method as an infinite loop. So it's already an infinite loop. So you don't have to, in animation, you don't have to create an infinite loop for the animation to work. When this animation engine runs, it will, every fraction of a second, it will call this method automatically. While the application is running, it's calling this method. So it's an infinite loop. So think about that. Okay. So this is where you're going to add most of your code. So this is what Greenfoot gives you. Okay. So let's say I don't. What can I do with this? Okay. So if I look at the B, you can see that the B is under the actor. So B is an actor. Okay. So if I want to know what can I do with this B, okay, so you can think about it like the actor is the parent of the child B. So I can just click on the help and I can go to the Greenfoot class documentation. So I can read about this. So this is very important, very important. That's where the beauty of Java comes in. That's why you guys have to create the doc strings, the Java documentation. So it might take a little while before you realize how important documentation is. So my B is an actor. So I want to look at the actors. So what can the actor do? Well, we can figure out the X and Y coordinate where the B is on the screen. We can figure out if we hit the edge of the screen or not, okay? But we can move a distance, okay? So so let's see, what can we do with this B? How can we move? Well, if this is already an infinite loop, right, then I can just say move, let's say 5 units, okay? Now, if you look at it, the move method receives an integer and it returns nothing, right? So just by looking at the documentation, I can figure out what I can do with this object. So let's see if it actually works, right? So every time this act method is called, we are moving 5 units. So this is where we have the class. This is my class, right? Class that's called the B. So how can I make an object out of it, right? Well, right click on it and we're gonna instantiate the class into an object. So now we have an object. So now we'll have an object that looks like a B. And I can put it on the world. And then you can right click and make sure that you save the world, okay? And then we just run it. And you can see every time we run the game, the B moves. So why does it move? Okay, you can slow it down. So you can see that every now and then, right, depending how fast we want this act method to be called, it launches that move method once. So every time we launch that move method, we go 5 units. Okay, so let me go back to the class. Okay, now I don't want to go to the right, I want to go up. So how can I go up? Well, I don't know, how can I go up? How can I go up? So I go back to the documentation again to figure out how can I go up. We can set an image. Well, we can turn. So maybe that's going to be good. Well, let's go back over here. And I just want to say, okay, why don't we turn? I have no clue what it means, right? Because it means, or it tells me that turn is just turns by an amount. Well, what is that amount? I don't know what that amount is. So I can click on the turn method, okay? And it has the definition for the amount. The amount is the number of degrees to turn. Positive values turn clockwise. So that's the description of it. Now this shows up because of the @param docstring tag, what you guys are required to put in. So as you practice it, it's going to be very important for you guys to generate your own documentation. And I have another video. You guys have the link to the docstring video. But it's going to be very important for you guys to understand that we cannot remember everything about the classes and what they can do. We have to rely on the documentation to reference when we're trying to do something. So first of all, you're trying to say, okay, what is it that I want to do? And then let me go to the documentation to see if I can do that particular thing. And if I cannot, how can I use other methods? Maybe I can combine some methods to do something specific. But this Greenfoot is really simple. We only have a few classes to deal with. It's still Java, but you don't have to learn hundreds and hundreds of classes. Anyway, so we figured out that we can turn, and when we're turning, the integer for the turn method is the degree, right? So and if we use a positive value, it's going to turn clockwise. Now it's an integer, right? In Java, we don't have unsigned data type. So an integer is a signed data type, so we can put in positive or negative values. So anyway, we can read a lot of information just by reading the documentation right here. So let's see what happens when we run this now. Well, you can see that the B is kind of flying in a circle. Well, what's going on right now? Well, every time we call the method, it doesn't just move, but it also turns, right? So that's not really what I want. What I want to do is I just want to turn once and then move in that particular direction. So that's really not what I need. So let's reset this. Go back to the B, or let's go back to documentation. This is not really the method that I need. Is there anything else? Well, what about the set rotation? So we can set the rotation of the sector. So after I set it, right, I don't have to worry about that. So maybe that's going to be the method that I need. So let's go ahead and set rotation. Let's say 90, right? So we're going to set it to 90 degrees. Okay, let's run it. Reset. Let's slow it down a little bit. But you can see that it set the rotation to 90 degrees. And now we just move to that 90 degrees. Okay, so what if I set it to negative 90 degrees? So you can see the negative 90 degrees is up, positive 90 degrees is down. Set rotation 0. 0 is toward the right. And 180 toward the left. Okay, so you can test all these methods easily. You learn Java and you learn how to read the documentation to find answers, and then you can create all kinds of interesting little games. Okay, so maybe I want this B to move somewhere, but only when I press the keyboard. So if I go back to the actor class, actor documentation, you're going to see that there is nothing, no method here that tells me what's, or there's no method that actually monitors the keyboard, right? So the actor is not the right class. So I go to the Greenfoot, and you can see in the Greenfoot class, we have a method called is key down. Okay, and that just requires a string and a key name. So what kind of a key can we monitor for? If you look at here, here's the key names. We can have basically any key on the keyboard. So the arrow is going to be just up, down, left, and right. Okay. Now that's going to be a strange little method. Now this is going to be important, and later on you guys are going to learn about that. But right now, just kind of understand that if you have a static method, then you have to mention the class where the method is in. So this method is in the class Greenfoot. So Greenfoot is the class. The method I want to use is key down. That will return a Boolean value, true or false. And then we're going to need the string name. Okay. So I go back to the B, and I want to do all this, but only, I know we haven't learned the selection statements yet, but I know that you took C++. So due to prerequisites, you guys understand the selection statements. Okay. So I need the is key down is the method. And what I want to do is press the up arrow key. So I just use the up keyword. Okay. And I know it's going to return a Boolean value, so I don't have to use the comparison operator. But the is key down is static, so I have to put the name of the class that contains this particular method. And then I want to surround that in a block. Okay. Now we're going up. You guys remember what's going to happen? How do we go up? How can we turn up? Is it 180 degrees? No, that's going to be negative 90 degrees, right? So negative 90 is up. And then when we turn up, we just want to move 5 units. Okay. So now when the program runs, nothing happens, right? Because the if statement is false. As soon as I hold down the up arrow key, every time I press the up arrow key, the B moves up. Okay. So let's add other directions to this. So we got 4 directions. So let's do up, down. So down is 90 degrees. And then we have, let's say, left. Left was 180 degrees. And then we have right, which is 0 degree. Okay, so that's it. And now you have 4 directions for the B to move, right? So let's speed it up a little bit. So you can see that now we can control the B with the keys in all different directions. So now the B is flying. Okay, so let me just create another class. Okay, let's create a new class and let's do ladybug. Okay. Now with the ladybug, I mean we can associate a picture with it, right? So we have different kind of ladybugs, but those are pictures. So okay, I want to unspecified. So I don't want to use a ladybug picture. Okay, so right now, if I create an object of the ladybug, right, you can just see the Greenfoot, right? So it's basically just showing you where the object is. But since it has no picture associated with it, it doesn't, so we don't lose track of where the object is. Okay, so it makes it visible. But I want to set some kind of an image for this ladybug. Okay, so now what is the ladybug? What does the ladybug look like? No, let's see. Let's create, I think it's kind of like an oval shape, right? Okay. So what if the ladybug gonna look something like this? And on this ladybug, maybe we want to create some kind of dots. Okay. And maybe that's going to be random dots. Okay. So where do we need to put these random dots? Well, they probably, the easiest way would be to probably restrict them to maybe a square. Okay. The ladybug itself also gonna be a square, right? So it's a picture. So ladybug or any kind of a drawing is surrounded in a rectangle. So what happens? Let's say we're gonna do, maybe there's gonna be 40, and there's gonna be 80. Okay. So let's say there's gonna be maybe 5, and this is 5. Okay, so let's just have a border of 5 around here, right? So really, when we're talking about a range of values that we really need to create, okay, for the X and Y coordinate, where is it that we want to create this little dot? Okay, we need to restrict a range. Okay, so this is gonna be our 0, 0 coordinate, X and Y coordinate. So in gaming, always the upper left corner, that's the 0. And in gaming, it's not like in math. In gaming, when you go down from that 0, 0 position, that's a positive direction. So both of them are positive directions. So what we need to find out is what is the XY coordinate for a dot, right? That's gonna be drawn from the top left-hand corner. That's gonna be the XY coordinate from which we're gonna draw an actual circle, okay? So it's much easier to find this location by this rectangle. That's why I think we can just simply restrict the rectangle, right? But if you look at it, this range gonna be 30, right? Okay, so 30, 35, 40, which is the outer width of this picture. And if you look at this, this is gonna be 70, right? So that's gonna be 5, 75 plus 5 is 80. That's gonna be the outer height of the rectangle, okay? So this is what you need to go through in order to really design what is it that you want to do. So if you don't design it, then if you cannot see this, that's why a lot of people don't know how to code, because you have a problem. The problem is I need to create, let's say this is my ladybug. How do I do that? Well, you can't Google it. You can't watch a YouTube video on it, okay? You need to have the idea, what is it that you want to do, analyze it, design it, and then maybe start coding it. So right now, I need to create a picture that represents my ladybug. So I go into my ladybug source code, okay? Let me just get rid of these to clean up the code a little bit, okay? So you can see that we just have a method in this class, okay? But when I instantiate the class, I want the ladybug to look in a certain way. So that means I need to create a constructor. So just because the Greenfoot doesn't give you a constructor, right? If we know what the concept of a constructor is, we can create one for us, okay? So it's gonna be a public, and I have to call it exactly the same way that we call the class. So now we have a ladybug. It's gonna be a no arg constructor, okay? So not gug, bug, okay? So now we have a constructor. So what do we need to do? What is it that we want to do when we create this object? Okay, if I go back to the documentation, you can see that there is a Greenfoot image. Okay. So the Greenfoot image, the nice thing about this is that we can create a transparent, an empty Greenfoot image if we just give it a width and a height. And that's all we need. So that is under the constructors. Okay. So you never use the Greenfoot image. You don't need to Google things, right? You can just go to the actual documentation. And what you need to know is how to read the documentation for constructors. So we have a bunch of constructors. But even though we have a bunch of constructors, I know that I want to create an empty image so I can draw on it. So that just requires me to have width and height. So I go back to my ladybug, and I need to create a Greenfoot image. We're gonna call it background. So then we're gonna create a new Greenfoot image, but we cannot have a no arg. So what did we say? 40 and 80, right? So we're gonna have the 40 and then the 80 for the perimeters. So now we have an image. Now what can we do with the image? Well, I need to go back to the documentation. Greenfoot image. What can I do with Greenfoot images? Well, I can draw an oval. Okay. Now what do I need in order to draw an oval? I need to know where I need to get, when I need to start drawing the oval, and then the height and the width of that oval, right? That's all I need. So that's great. So so now I do have the background. So on that background, I want to draw an oval. Now, where do I want to draw that oval? So first of all, let's just draw it on 0, 0 coordinate. And what's going to be the width and height? Well, it's going to be the image width and height that we already specified, because that is the outer edge of my picture frame, right? So that's, let's see. That's the outer edge of my picture frame, right? So I know where I want to restrict this oval when I'm drawing the oval. So it's the 40/80, okay? But I really would like to draw a red oval, right? So how can I do that? Well, I need to go back to the documentation. And in the documentation, I can see, what about set color, right? So first I pick up the pen or a pencil or a brush, right? So before I actually draw the oval, okay, and I do the background. Background is my image, Greenfoot image object. And what I want to do is set a color, okay? Now, what color do I want to set? Well, it requires a color data type, okay? But we have a color data type, okay? So here you can see, let's say, red, okay? So we have a constant value, red, all capital letter. The data type of that is color, but look what's in front of it. Is static. What do we need to do when we see the word static? We need to write the class in front of the field. Okay, which class we're in? We are in color. I go back to my ladybug and I say color dot all cap red. Okay, so red is static. Because it's static, I need to know the container that holds the constant value. Okay, now we can compile it. okay, and I create a ladybug object, well, there is nothing oval, there is nothing red about it. What happened? Well, I have an image and I drew an oval, but I did not associate that to my object. So how can I associate that to my object? Well, I need to go back to documentation. I go back to my actor. Remember, my ladybug is an actor. So can I tell the ladybug, can I tell my actor to set an image? Let's see. Oh, look at that. We do have a set image method. What is the parameter it requires? It requires a Greenfoot image. That's what we just created. So go back to my ladybug. So now we use this object. So that means whatever object you're creating right now, that object set the image for that particular object. What object do we want to set? We want to set the background that we just created, because the background is a data type of Greenfoot image. And what does the set image requires? It requires a Greenfoot image object. That's what we are providing this method. Okay. So now we create the ladybug, and now we have an oval shape. Well, yeah, that's an oval shape, but that is an outline. That's not really what I want. What I want to draw is an actual field oval shape. So let me go back to my documentation, go back to the Greenfoot image. It's okay, did I pick the right method? It says draw oval, but is there anything else that we can do? Hey, what about fill oval? Would that be a better method? Well, I don't know, let's look at it. Okay, so I don't want to draw the oval, but I want to fill the oval. Let's see what happens then. And now we have a red oval shape. Okay, so every time we create an object, it's always going to have the same properties, right? That's what object-oriented programming is. That's why we need the constructor. Every time I create another, now we can create 1 million of these. And we don't need to worry about setting the image and drawing the or filling the oval shape and setting the red color. All that is inside the constructor. So as soon as we build the object out of this class, it will look exactly like this. Okay. Well, that's great, but let's say this color is a constant value, right? So what else can we do with color? Well, I mean, we can use the constant values, but it also has a constructor, right? So what if we use the constructor for the color? Now the constructor for the color requires 3 values. So it requires the 3 values. That's just the red, green, and the blue color. So this is just the RGB color. What is the range for those colors? 0 to 255. So we want to call this constructor with a value from 0 to 255 for each one of these parameters. Then we can create our custom color, right? So we can go back over here and say, okay, why don't I just create a color? So the data type is color. It's gonna be my color. So the color class, Pascal case. Color is a variable, so we're using camel case for that, okay? So then we're gonna say new color. And that new color, I don't know. something like this, right? Just 3 values, each value from 0 to 255. And I'm gonna say, okay, pick up this color pencil or pen and then draw my oval shape with that. So let's create a new ladybug. What does that look like? Well, this kind of grayish color, okay? Now you can look at the HTML color table combinations for all these different values, okay? But it might be kind of interesting. What if we would create this randomly, right? So in Java, right? So Java API, right? Let's do random. So there's a class called random, okay? So that's why what I'm doing in Greenfoot is going to be very important that you guys are going to do in your assignments. Every time you see a class, I want you to go to the documentation and ask a question. What kind of a constructor does that class has? And what can I do with that class? Okay, the method summaries. Okay, so we can just, there's a no arg constructor. We can create a random object. And with the random object, we can call the method called nextInt with a bound, integer bound, which means it's going to generate a number from 0 to the specified value exclusively. So if I'm going to bound the nextInt with 256, then it's going to generate values from 0 to 255. So that's what I need. I need nextInt that will return an integer in a particular range. So let's go back to Greenfoot. So first of all, we need to figure out where is random. So random is in the util package. Okay, so then I need java.util.random. Let's just call it rand. New java.util random. Okay, so now we have a random object, right? What else can we do if I don't want to work that hard? We could have just done import java.util.random, and then I don't need to use the absolute path. We can just use the relative path, right? It works exactly the same way. Either way is fine. Okay. So this is why we're learning all those things in the chapter in the book, right? You need to spend time and understand everything in the chapters. Don't worry about creating applications and creating games and all that kind of stuff. That will come later. Right now, you need to learn the language itself. Anyway, so now we have a rand object. So what is it that I need to do? So rand can get me nextInt, right? And if I say 256, it will automatically pick a random number from 0 to 255. So let's do that 2 more times. 1, 2 more times. So 3 times is going to generate. So I don't even know what colors is going to generate, but it's going to generate values from 0 to 255 randomly. And that's what we're going to assign to our bumblebee or whatever, ladybug. So now when I create a ladybug, it's this color, a new ladybug, nice, that color, new ladybug, this color, new ladybug, this color, okay? Even you as a programmer, you have no clue what color gonna show up because all that is generated randomly, okay? Every time you create an object, it will automatically pick a random color for it. So that's the main point for your constructor. Okay, now maybe we want to also put those dots on that ladybug, right? So after we fill the oval on this ladybug, let's pick up another color. Okay, so so we created the oval, then I'm gonna change my color, and I'm just gonna call the constant value, right? Remember, color has the black constant value. It's static. Because it's static, I have to say what is the class that contains it, right? So again, color. In color, I'm using black. Black color type is color, or data type is color. Because it's static, I have to mention what class it is in. So where's my ladybug? There's a ladybug. So now I'm holding a black pen. Okay. So now what I want to do is, now I want to draw more ovals. Now these can be ovals, or maybe you're gonna create circles. So I'm just gonna create little circles. Okay. So the width and height is exactly the same. Okay. But I don't want to create that at 0, 0 location. Okay. Remember, I need to create them somewhere else. Okay, so maybe I want to see, can I create one right here? So what is that gonna be? X5 and Y5, right? So that is the location when I need to, I want to create my dot. So X5, Y5, okay. Let's see what that looks like. So you can see it's right there on that corner, okay? You know, that was just the estimation, right? So it seems like it might be better to maybe increase this a little bit, right? Maybe to a 10. 10 might be a better location. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the ladybug, and now you can see it's right there. Okay. So let's create another dot. Okay. So that's X is 10. So Y is the same location. Okay. So let's say, can we create one right here? Okay. We need to update these values now. So everything should be 10. Seems like it fits much better. So, so where would be the X location then? Well, the whole width is 40, right? So we already moved in 10 for the first dot. So we want to leave 10 from the other side. So there's probably gonna need to be 30, right? So if I move over 30 units, okay, I'm still gonna have 10 more units left over before I reach the right side of the width. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. Okay, so you can see that we are drawing these dots right on the ladybug. Okay, and maybe you want to bring that down over here, the bottom of the ladybug. So let's create one more. Okay, maybe I want to do this, maybe 25 might be a little bit better. Anyway, so let's say X coordinate 10, but now the Y coordinate gonna change. Okay, now we have 80. So let's go down. Let's see, 70. Let's see that what that looks like. Okay, that's pretty good, right? And now let's create another one over here. So I'm trying to just kind of create my range for my rectangle. Let's see. So let's see. We're at 10, 10, and then we went to 25. Oops, what happened here? Yeah, remove that one. Okay, so now we were at 10 and 70. So we want to keep the 70 for the y coordinate, right? And for the x coordinate, we want to go down to that. I mean, go over 25, like the second dot that we created. Okay, so now you can see that we have the 4 dots. Okay, so we have this range between 10 to 25 and then 10 to 70. Right, so how can we generate a 10 to 25? Okay, so the x coordinate should have 10 to 25. That would be 0 to 15, which is 16 maximum. That's going to give me 0 to 15 plus 10, right? So that would be 0 to 15 plus 10 would give me 10 to 25. And that was the x coordinate that we agreed that it looks good at that location. Okay, what about the y coordinate? The y coordinate is 10 to 70, right? So so how can we create that? Okay, we're gonna add 10 to that. So that's gonna be 0 through 60, right? 0 through 60, which will give me the range of 10 to 70. How can we create that? Need 0 through 60, so I need to set this to 61, because 61 is exclusive, plus 10. So now we have that range of 10 to 70. Okay. So now what we need to do is, so I don't know where the dot's gonna land. 2, 3. Maybe we can set 4 dots on the ladybug, right? Okay, but it's gonna be within this range, but I don't even know where those dots gonna be. Now the dot's gonna be black, but the color of the ladybug, I don't know what that's gonna be because it's random. Okay, so we have a ladybug, and then we have another ladybug, and another ladybug. Random colors and random dots, okay? With a lot of math, right? So this is what you cannot really just Google somewhere, okay? You need to understand how to find these methods, right? How to read the methods. So what we did with, let's see, the Greenfoot image, right? We picked the wrong method, but if you think that is the right method, that's okay. Just write it. I mean, implement that method, run the code. It doesn't do exactly what you need. Go back to the documentation, pick another one. Okay. But mainly, what helped is to understand the math, right? Understand X and Y coordinates, and understand how do I restrict a random value range. So you guys have example codes for random values, tossing a die. You guys have a die class, okay? if you're thinking about a specific application, you're never going to learn it, okay? You're always going to get frustrated and you're always going to be criticizing everything that I'm not learning enough. I want to create applications. Forget it, okay? You're not there yet. Focus on the language, okay? Focus on the math, focus on the syntax. Understand what a constructor is, right? When you have a sample code and it uses a random class, make sure you understand the concept behind that random class, okay? And even if the example doesn't show you everything what you need, make sure that you know where that class is. And if it doesn't give you exactly what you need in the example, go to the documentation to find a better method. You have an object now, go ahead and create or use another method, whatever method is available, okay? That's when you're gonna start feeling more comfortable about programming. Every time you have a question and you Google it and you go to YouTube, it's garbage, okay? It's never gonna get any easier. So it's a simple code, but it allows you, so this is when you understand everything about this concept that I just showed you, okay? Right now, really, I don't care about Greenfoot and the ladybug. What I care about is this whole concept of what is a constructor? Some of you ask, why do I need a no-arg constructor? Well, I don't want to receive anything for this ladybug, okay? I just want to create a ladybug. No argument required. I will set up exactly what the ladybug's supposed to look like. Even though just by looking at the code, I don't know what the ladybug gonna look like because I'm generating a lot of things randomly. Okay, and I can also go back to the B, right? Maybe just copy all this code from here. Right, go back to the ladybug. Now we're not in the constructor anymore, okay? But in the act method, right? So that's where we put in all this code so we can monitor the keystrokes. So I create a ladybug or many ladybugs, right? Make sure that you save the world, okay? Run. And now they are flying together, okay? Okay, so now we have ladybugs flying together, okay? But sometimes, sometimes you would like to have really a red ladybug, right? I mean, it would be nice to have just a red ladybug too. Oh, come on. Okay, how can we create a red ladybug? Well, why don't I just create another constructor, right? And this constructor, so maybe I'm gonna receive an integer. Oops. Okay. And I'm not even gonna use that integer at all. Just so we can see a parameterized constructor, okay? And a no-arg constructor. It's just another constructor. But what I want to do is I don't want to create a random color for the ladybug. Okay. What I really want to specifically create a red ladybug. The rest of the code, I still want to create dots. Now you can have more or less dots, whatever changes you want to make, right? But now we have two constructors. So when I try to create a ladybug object, right? Now it says, okay, you have two different constructors. And I want to create this one, okay, right here. It's going to say, okay, give me a number. Well, I'll give you a number. But every time I create that ladybug with the number, it doesn't matter what I give because I'm not really using, in my logic, I'm not using that integer. okay? Now, later on, you can create an if statement, right? I'll leave it to you guys. You can take the number, whatever the user types in when we create this. If it's 1, create a red ladybug. If it's 2, create a yellow ladybug. If it's 3, create a purple ladybug, okay? Those numbers can mean something, but right now we have multiple constructors, right? It's just a copy paste. But now I'm saying that when you pick this constructor, I want this code to execute to generate the object. If you pick this constructor, okay, so if you pick this constructor, I want you to generate this particular object with these particular properties, okay? So, so that was really just a simple little code, okay? Again, this is not about application or game development. The one thing I want you guys to practice is use the documentation, okay? When you use the documentation, you want to have a question, okay? How do I do something like we did over here? How can I move? Or can I move with an actor? Well, go to the documentation, look at the actor, and say, okay, what can I do with it? Oh, okay, I can move, okay? So then we say, okay, how can we create a color, okay? How can we monitor the keyboard, okay? All that is in the documentation, okay? Now over here, you guys can see that we don't need to really go to a java.util.random class, right? Because here we could have just used the get random number, okay? We could have used this particular method, okay, that will return an integer, but behind the scene, what do you think this method is doing? It is using the java.util.random class to give you the random value, okay? There's not a right or wrong answer. More you look at the documentation, okay, you can voice control your game if you look at it, right? Okay, look at the microphone level, okay? Based on the microphone level, right, you can speed up or slow down your game if you want to. You can do all kinds of different things with these things. The main thing is don't try to find somebody else's code, but use the documentation to find the answer to whatever idea you have for your game or application. But mainly, so this is the constructor, right? So just because Greenfoot did not give you a default constructor, that doesn't mean that you cannot create one, okay? And you don't have to have just one constructor. You can have multiple constructors, and you can have your imagination run wild in order to create different kinds of applications. But this is a really good learning environment. So I really highly recommend that you guys look at Greenfoot. And also for the ID, for the Java ID for the course, I would recommend for you guys to use BlueJ. It has a much better debugging capability than other IDEs from a learning point of view, right? Anyway, this is it. So hopefully you guys learned something, or you guys understand why we learned about constructors and how important constructors are, okay? But this was just a simple example. See you next time.